What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 3 of Security Squawk. I'm here with my cohort, Reginald Andre, who's down in beautiful Miami, Florida. I'm up here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as you can see in my background. Um, Episode 3, it's the 2 days before Christmas.
Yep.
We are in the midst of, I guess, what's being dubbed as the largest cyber attack in history so far. Um, hey, you remember on episode 1, I started off the podcast and asked you if you thought we were in a war,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and how prophetic was that? You know what I mean? Like a week later, a little more than a week later, the biggest cyber attack that pretty much has ever happened to United States government and private businesses. Obviously through the solar winds hack, and if you've been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's probably I don't know. It's probably taken the lead over COVID for a little while, and the stimulus
Hmm.
talks. Um, I take no sense of pride in that hack, but um, it does provide credence to guys like us who have been talking about this for years and years. And I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that we're in a state, or we're in a situation when it comes to technology, that you can buy the best of the best, but even the best of the best can become compromised in some way, shape, or form, as we saw with that hack. Um, so that's where we're at today with the solar winds. More government entities, more companies have come
Yeah.
out and announced that they have been affected by this in some way, shape, or form. And we know, I only know maybe about 2 dozen so far. I think, I don't know too many more than that, but solar winds themselves reported that like 18,000
Yeah.
customers have been impacted by this, or potentially been impacted by this. And um, you know, I would imagine over the course of the next month or so, we're going to hear a lot more companies come out as they figure out that their networks were also compromised. So, um, what are your thoughts on what's going on with the solar winds breach?
I mean, I think it's crazy. It's super crazy. It's our Super Bowl right now, as I think I mentioned last week.
Right.
I am surprised how they've been very tight-lipped, and I guess at this point, it's kind of more like on the need-to-know basis, because of course, if they give out any information, then obviously the hackers are watching the news, and maybe there may be more hysteria on it. So I guess they're just keeping a tight lip and just trying to understand, and that's actually the problem is that they don't know everything. They don't know if it was only solar winds or if it's other applications, if they're still in their systems.
Hmm.
So I guess that's kind of why they're just still investigating. And until they can actually know for sure, they're going to just keep it on a need to know basis and take it from there.
Yep. Yeah, and you don't know with something like this. There was a pretty significant backdoor that was put into that software, and you don't know if criminal hackers were able to use that backdoor to then get into other software companies, and then put similar types of backdoors, malware into legitimate software that people are installing every day. So we're going to find out more as time moves on. I talk a lot about it on my YouTube channel. You've talked about it on your own YouTube channel, and it is a serious attack. And I'm just kind of at this point, I'm just kind of waiting and watching to see where everything falls out and how everything shakes out. And it'll be interesting to see, because I know that the new president Biden came out with some pretty strong words yesterday about it. And it seems like everybody, other than a couple people in the country, are on board with the fact that this was executed by Russia, and that I think that that's where the attention is going to be turned over
Yeah.
the next month or so. So, interesting thing that happened to me this week is on the podcast last week I mentioned a client that we did, or a prospect that we did a cybersecurity assessment for, and I mentioned that port 3389 on that
Mhm.
desktop that we found opened up and got into that pissing contest, as I called it, with their current IT provider, that was proper or not proper security practices. Um, so we now happy to report that they are now a client of ours.
Nice. Congrats.
So uh, I am happy about that because now we have a bookkeeping company that is now no longer with substandard IT company, which I call that a win-win for everybody. For not only us, not only our new client, but all of the clients of that bookkeeping firm, and how much data that is now going to be better protected with a company like ours than who they were previously with. Uh,
Mhm.
based on the findings and the facts that were in the assessment. I'm not just tooting my own horn or making things up that were better based on things that I can't measure. I can measure with these reports, and I can show you with these assessment reports that we generate that this stuff is definitely quantifiable. But um, I commend the business owner, because one thing that I believe about business is, especially early on in business when you're just starting out, is focus on your core competencies, on what you're good at, and then outsource the rest until you're generating enough revenue and bringing in enough profit to where you can afford to hire positions that are pretty much seen as overhead, and technically don't generate any direct revenue. And that's when you start entertaining, like hiring a marketing admin or an administrative assistant or a finance person inside your company. But the revenue has to be there, the profit has to be there, and quite frankly, the you shouldn't be doing those things if your processes and your procedures aren't where they need to be, um, because the business owner and a lot of the people that need to make the decisions around the things that happen in the company, their attention is going to be taken away from the core of the business to basically get these other things off the ground. Um, so that's why companies like ours exist. We outsource a ton of things in our business. And I believe that early on, all companies should not be looking to hire somebody to do specific roles, but to outsource. And even in our business, there's certain pieces of tech that we outsource simply because it's more cost effective, or we get better expertise or better service because we outsource it to a company. Now, I don't outsource our core competency or our cybersecurity and things like that, but things like somebody to review log files and stuff like that is all stuff that technically can be outsourced within our business. So and then we outsource things like graphic design work and a lot of marketing functions and things like that. So um, what are your thoughts here, Andre, on outsourcing, and do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me on how much you can outsource, especially in the beginning? I know some people, don't like to outsource because they want to keep control of that culture. And a lot of times it's hard to do that when you're bringing out in outside companies. So, what are your thoughts on that?
No, and I actually unfortunately learned the hard way because we're working on our branding and marketing for our company, and here it is. I'm up 11, 12 o'clock trying to just like do like an Adobe Photoshop basic designs and things like that, realizing like I have no idea what I'm doing. It's late. I'm trying to look at YouTube videos and do comparisons, and it's not working.
Yep.
So then, like for example, we wanted to do some new flyers. So I contacted the local people on my chambers, and unfortunately, I mean I wanted to use them. I want to use them. I want to support my local community, but I just couldn't afford it. But I still needed the work done. So a friend of mine told me about these websites. There's tons of them. Upwork, Fiverr, and essentially you can actually post what you're looking to do, and from there it goes out internationally if they're registered in that account, and then it's like a bidding process. And as you know, in the States, some things are way more expensive. So for what I needed done here in the States, I got quoted about $300 for a flyer, and here I had awesome samples for someone in El Salvador quoting me $50. $50 compared to 300. So I mean, I definitely, I went for it and I got the product, and I'm very happy with it. Or as far as the design is the product, and I'm very happy with it. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be supporting USA. All my employees are USA, but sometimes as a business, if you can't afford it but you need the work done, you got to see where else you can go for it. Even there was another item that I had, which was a bio page. I wanted to create like a professional bio for when I do speaking and so forth. And again, quotes were crazy. And I went to one of those websites, and I found someone in Canada, and she was able to do it at a very, very reasonable price. And the finished product was excellent. So definitely outsource if you can.
Yeah, I think a lot of business owners get caught in that trap where they, like you said, they're up at 11, midnight, 1 in the morning, burning the candle at both ends, trying to, just get done what they think needs to get done. I know I made the mistake early on of, doing that and thinking that, I was doing something for free, or I was getting it for free, or I could do it, or I was the only one who could do it. Or I was the only one who could take it from, an idea to, especially with things like graphic design in your website. I think the website is the thing for me that I held on to the longest in our business. Obviously to a fault, but uh, I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore because it's somebody else who's responsible for getting that stuff done. And it really, there's no dollar amount. There's no uh, anything you can put on being able to delegate and increase productivity by getting out of your own way. And I think a lot of business owners and a lot of CEOs struggle with growth for that exact reason.
Hmm.
They just can't get out of their own way. They do a poor job of delegating and or training people so that they can delegate. How many times in the years you've been in business have you either said to somebody else or yourself, let me just do it myself. I can get it done quicker,
Hmm.
faster, cheaper, or whatever.
Hmm.
I see that all the time with business owners, and or they think like it's not worth creating the training to train somebody else. By the time I create the training and train somebody else, I could have done it 50 times myself.
Right.
Um, but for me, I see everything that I do in this business is if I'm doing something, I got to figure out how to fire myself from doing it quickly, so I can move on and focus on the growth and the strategy and the bigger macro things that need to be taken care of within the company. So that's why I outsource. That's since I started doing that, we've been much more effective, much more efficient. I don't know if you have anything else to add to the outsourcing piece, or just being a business owner and getting out of your own way. But I think that that's a lot of reasons why we don't outsource and why we don't seek that help, and we shoulder it ourselves a lot of times.
Yeah, one thing I learned in my Goldman Sachs class was that they wanted to see how much money are you paying yourself an hour. So basically, your yearly salary, you divide that into 52 weeks, then you divide that to 160 hours. And I remember I took the class about 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember my hourly rate was like literally, because I was working so much, it was
Mhm.
like 11, $12 an hour. It was like embarrassing. Like I was literally killing myself.
Sounds
Um,
like you were paying yourself a pretty decent salary, because I know business owners that pay themselves like 30, 35 a year and put in 80, 90 hours a week.
No, no, no. I said $11 an hour.
Right.
Yeah, that's $11 an hour I was doing.
How much were you paying yourself a year?
Oh, well, $11 an hour has to be what,
Oh, so
24.
that was based on 40 hours a week or 80 hours a week?
Oh no, I was doing probably around like 70, 80 hours a week.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. So if you were doing a 40-hour week, you were paying yourself like $20 an hour.
Yeah, no, I was trying to do everything, and it taught me that, you got to let go. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there, and hopefully other business owners that are listening, especially ones that are early on, listen to what we're saying and take it. Um, that's one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself, and I think that's what separates business owners from entrepreneurs. I look at entrepreneurs as people who where that almost comes naturally, the ability to just delegate and move on from things, and just be kind of like that idea or visionary type person
Yeah.
within the organization. So yeah, so moving on. Um, so I want to talk about I don't want to talk about SolarWinds anymore, and I don't want to talk about ransomware, but I do want to talk about um, Baltimore County in Maryland, the schools. Now the schools are getting hit left and right. Um, Clearly, the hackers know schools, municipalities have weak budgets when it comes to cybersecurity. I know here in New Jersey, a lot of I'm friends with a lot of the politicians that are, local politicians, and quite frankly, they might spend money on IT support, but it's pretty much like that help desk, the traditional managed service provider that we're used to thinking about, the guys that you call when things aren't working, and computers need to be set up and stuff like that. And they really don't have a uh, a cybersecurity model, or they're not implementing any cybersecurity practices along with the service, which is why I believe we're seeing so many K through 12 schools get hit, along with um, municipalities. They all work. They pretty much work hand in hand. At least here in New Jersey, they do. The school board and the local governments, while they're supposed to be separate in a way, a lot of them are they run on the same tickets when you're voting for them. School board and the mayor or the council are all running on a Democrat ticket. So, that's how I see things, is they're together. So, they're getting hit like crazy. And then you have Baltimore County schools that got hit around Thanksgiving. And now we have reports that are coming out that are basically saying that this attack was more widespread in terms of the damage than initially thought. And now, as I always mention on my YouTube channel, right after ransomware attacks, people love to come out and say the famous words, well, no data was stolen that we're aware of. And then they find out, here we are a month later from Thanksgiving, and now they're coming out and saying that, oh, yeah, student and teacher data was probably stolen and also encrypted. And there's reports coming out that things like students, seniors who are trying to apply for schools. So like right now is prime time to apply for college for
Right.
a high school senior, and you need transcripts to do that. And if the school can't provide the college transcripts, I'm sure things are um, slowed down because of COVID, and now you have this going on.
Wow.
You know, I remember being that age. I remember being, um, 17, going into college. It's probably one of the two or three things that I cared about at that age, right? So, regardless of what you think about college and how you feel about it as an adult, when you're that age, that almost feels like your entire world is coming down, crashing on you, because everything you've worked for 12 years can now be, almost destroyed because of a computer glitch. And especially if you're like, a gifted student trying to get into like a Ivy League school, how competitive that is. Um, and the reason I bring it up is because we see this a lot in our businesses, Andre, where um, it, these ramifications from these types of events are recognized afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And what we try to get empower companies to do and teach them to do and show them to do is how not to end up in a reactionary mode when this stuff goes down. If you live by the "it's not if but when" kind of mantra, then your business should have something called a business impact analysis that you've completed on your business. Um, if you're a business owner and you're listening to this and you have no idea what a business impact analysis is, or you've never heard of it, I highly suggest that you make it one of your things for 2021 to do. Um, and if you don't know what it is, I'll kind of give you the rundown of what that is. And the business impact analysis is simply going through department by department and determining what are the basic functions that we need to have this department operate, and then collectively all the departments together is your business. So it's all the things that you need to make sure that are in place and that are functional for your business to operate. And that's what ooh, excuse me, that's what a business impact analysis does. And a business continuity plan and a disaster recovery plan is built from that. So if you've never done a business impact analysis and you have a business recovery, or you have a disaster recovery plan or a business continuity plan in place, I challenge you to test it and see if it cuts the mustard. You can do this without actually testing it, like legitimately testing it, by taking things down. You can sit around a conference table with stakeholders and managers and talk about whether or not you have enough A, documentation, and B, does the technology fit the goals of the business. So if you say, we need to recover a particular system, or that system can't be down for more than 2, 3, 4 hours, do you have the right technology in place to support those business goals? And that's really what a business impact analysis will bring to light. It'll let you identify, which identify is part of what, Andre? Cybersecurity framework, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So identify is part of a cybersecurity framework, and that's part of it. Identifying, the risks and the impacts that are going to happen to a business should, you get cyber attacked, should you have a flood, should you have a fire, and none of your equipment that's in your office is available for you to use. Same thing happens with a cyber attack. You come in, your files are locked, your computers are locked, and you can't use anything. How are you going to continue to serve your clients and your customers and the contracts that you signed? That's what all of this is intended for you to figure out. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in terms of what this Baltimore County information that we know about today has come to. A month ago, we didn't know where we really stood. Now we do, and we can see the gaps in there from not. I'm not involved in that whole situation, but I can read news articles, watch newscasts, and I can see from afar that they're really struggling there.
Mhm.
Superintendent wants to blame the budget and say he didn't have enough money. Um, I don't know. I've been selling cybersecurity services for the better part of 5 years, and quite frankly, in the last year, is the most interest we've had in what we've been selling. So you know, if even if you were given the money, would they really spend it on cybersecurity? I highly
Right.
question that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I'm still astonished that if my child is going to that school, that my transcripts are no longer available and there's no backup. Like that just is like what do you tell the colleges? Like that's
right,
just now you're gonna have to like start digging up for old report cards and things like that to then give it to the school to put in the system. I also like to going on that business continuity plan. You know, you've seen I think Google this month or last month they went out 2 or 3 times. You had Microsoft go out with Teams and Outlook and so forth. Excuse me, Office go out. So that just goes back, like, because we had one of our customers and they heavily rely on emails. They're a transportation company, and customers are sending them POs. And in this case, Microsoft went down, and they have to send out, go send their trucks and drivers to go pick up stuff. So, like, how do you're in the business have to think about, okay, if my technology stops working, what is my plan B? You
right.
know, if my voice over IP phones stop working and my customers need to call me, do they know a backup number? Is there a landline I have? Is there a cell phone number that they know? Something. So yeah, definitely for 2021, you got to start thinking of that. And Brian, I also like to say is that I think us, IT, CIOs, etc., we are now, instead of us getting the crumbs of the budget, whatever's left over. Oh, okay, we got $20,000, $30,000 left in our IT budget. Excuse me, in our general budget. Let's give it to IT. I think now we're going to start being at the table where they're going to now start coming to us. CEOs are going to now start coming to us and saying, "How much do you need?" So I think that's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for years that cybersecurity happens in the C-suite. Decisions should not be made on cybersecurity in your tech room or wherever your techs live or by your tech company that's not even part of your company because you outsource it.
Right.
Cybersecurity is something that needs to occur in the C-suite, and then the C-suite provides the direction to the IT staff on how they want things done. And if you don't operate your company like that, you need to get to a point where just like every other thing in your business, sales, people, and your processes. Now you need to bring cybersecurity and IT into the mix and make sure that you're doing things like this, business impact analysis and having disaster recovery plans and policies and procedures in place so that your employees can carry out, your wishes. One of the basic things you can ask yourself is if your building caught on fire today, would your employees know exactly what to do,
Right.
who to call, and how to continue to do their job in the event of that fire? And you can replace fire with flood, hurricane, cyber attack, whatever you want. But a good company, a world class company, has this stuff documented, and the procedures are reviewed and they're tested, and employees are trained on them. And if that sounds like a lot, I'm here to tell you that companies like mine and companies like Andre's at Arc Solvers, that's what we do for companies. That's one of the things I want people to get out of the podcast and what we're putting together here at the macro level is that we're not just guys, when we're not companies that you just call when you can't turn on your computer.
Hmm.
You can outsource the creation of the policies and procedures to companies like us, and we'll help you build them. We will help make sure that you have a proper plan in place, and make sure that you're doing the things to train your team, and make sure that they're getting trained up and they understand what the policies and procedures are. So when an event does happen, it's not the first time you're going through it, and people know they have to call this person, they have to notify this company and that company. Um, and you mentioned email specifically, and it's funny because I was having a conversation with or actually a bunch of our techs this morning, and I was kind of, especially the younger guys that we have who never had to deal with on-premise Exchange servers. But I can tell you right now, email, when people's emails down, other than Facebook going down, I don't know what people freak out about more than email.
Right.
The comment that I made was, people's Active Directory and file share could go down on a weekend, and they wouldn't know till Monday. But if their email went down on a Saturday, you guarantee you're getting a phone call.
Right.
So, and that was in the days when we did a lot of on-prem stuff with the email servers, and we had to deal with email going down quite often, especially with the smaller businesses, because they just didn't have the infrastructure, and usually their internet went down a lot because they just had a simple business cable modem and things like that. So, then, fast forward to today where everything's cloud-based, and then you have cloud services going down. But I think it's important for people to know, and business owners to know, and CEOs to know, that even if you're in Microsoft's cloud or Google's cloud, you can put things like we have an email protection product that we offer that not only includes the security, but if your Office 365 goes down, we have a way of rerouting those emails away from Office 365 into a web portal where you can log into and still check that your email while it's down. And then when the services are restored to Google or over 365, those emails then get delivered to your mailbox like they normally would.
Yeah.
And businesses might not know that exists. So I think it's important that that we bring that to light, because they may just throw their hands up and go, oh, well, it's in the cloud, there's nothing we can do, Microsoft's down. Well, no, there are things you can do. You can put in things like the technology I mentioned, where in the event that server at Office 365 or Google isn't available, your email is still accessible somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, if both services go down, you're kind of, SOL, but, what are the chances of two different entity services going down? So,
yeah.
So, that's about it for me today, bud. I don't know. I'm ready to go hang out with Santa for a couple of days and and do all the fun things that we do during Christmas time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you spending time with family or?
Yeah, I'm staying in town. I'm gonna stay in town, mom and son, daughter, wife, and my cousin. So it's gonna be fun.
Good. We're laying low. We're still doing the social distancing thing.
Oh yes, of course.
So,
yeah.
I'm gonna have a family Christmas Zoom room set up for people to pop in and out of over the course of 24 hours.
Awesome.
So that's what we're gonna do. So I wish you a Merry Christmas, my friend, and I hope you have a great holiday. And to everyone that's listening, thank you for joining our show once again. And you can get us on pretty much every podcast, and then head over to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page and like our page. And if you guys want to hear us talk about anything, or if there's anything that we mentioned in here you have questions about, drop them in the comments on our page, or post a question on either our YouTube or Facebook, and we'll see it, and we'll throw it into one of our future episodes. But that's it for us this week. We will do a recording next week. We will see you all then. We wish you all a happy holiday, and we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.